The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting soft golden rays across the room, but for Sarah, the beauty of the dawn was overshadowed by an insurmountable weight that pressed down on her chest. She lay frozen under a thick blanket, a tangled mess of emotions rising like the sun outside her window. Each tick of the clock echoed loudly in her ears, a sinister reminder of her stubborn deadline that approached with relentless speed. Why can't I just move? She whispered to herself, the weight of uncertainty holding her down both in body and spirit. Lately, each day felt like a marathon she was losing, and the thought of failure gnawed at her confidence. Would she ever be able to escape the clutches of her own despair? It was in that very moment of deep silence, when the world outside seemed to drift into an unapproachable realm, that Jake erupted into the room like a burst of sunlight. The golden retriever bounded onto the bed, his big paws sinking into the mattress and sending a ripple through her blanket. He reared his head, the radiant warmth of his big brown eyes piercing through her gloom. "Jake, come on. Give me a break," she exclaimed, attempting to shield herself under the heavy folds of the blanket. Yet the playful creature wouldn't be deterred. He persisted in nudging the fabric, trying to crawl beneath it himself. With his determined antics and gentle nudges, he slowly coaxed a smile from her lips, cracking through the armor of stress she had put up against the world. Okay, you win." She finally relented, throwing the blanket off in a swoop as Jake gleefully wriggled his way underneath it, taking possession of both her laughter and the cocoon they now shared. He rolled onto his back, paws waving in the air, a comedic display of sheer doggy joy. In that small room, they had created a universe of their own, but beneath the layers of laughter, an edge of panic continued to bubble within her. The looming project at work had consumed her thoughts like a raging storm, and she couldn't shake off the fear of letting everyone down. She sat up, pushing the tousled hair from her face, while Jake, sensing the change in her energy, peered at her attentively, his head cocked to one side, waiting for a cue from his best friend. "Do you think I can do this, buddy?" she murmured, leaning closer to him, pouring her anxieties into the air between them. "What if I fail? What if my ideas are just not enough?" Jake, ever the steadfast companion, nudged her chin with his nose, every ounce of his being deliberately telling her that she was more than enough. Sarah chuckled softly, although the knot in her throat tightened. They had been together through so much. She often thought of Jake as her anchor. His inherent ability to silence her insecurities drew her back to the present. If only for a brief moment, it wasn't long before the morning sun transformed into a fierce blaze outside, beckoning Sarah into the day. The chores of life awaited her, they always did. "All right, let's tackle the day together," she said, determination lacing her voice as she swung her feet off the bed. And Jake immediately leaped up, tail wagging like a flag atop a triumphant victory. As they both emerged from the sanctuary of their shared blanket, Sarah felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. She was ready to step into the light and face whatever lay ahead, guys. With Jake by her side, how could she not rise to the challenge? After a quick breakfast, she donned her sneakers and threw on a light jacket. "Let's go to the park," she decided, ruffling Jake's fur affectionately as he bounced around her feet, almost vibrating with excitement. Their morning ritual was sacred, just the two of them, the hum of vitality swirling around them. When they finally stepped outside, the air was fresh, fragrant with blooming flowers, and the chirping of birds filled the atmosphere. She felt liberated, momentarily a blissful reprieve from the confines of her thoughts. Jake, in the lead, trotted ahead, happily sniffing every inch of grass as if discovering a whole new world. As they strolled through the park, laughter and shouts echoed in the background as children played. Jake spotted two little girls tossing a frisbee and bolted toward them, his joyful barks punctuating the air. Sarah marveled at his exuberance and couldn't suppress her laughter. Watching him shuffle around the grass, tail wagging profusely, reminded her of the simple pleasures life could offer. "Hey, Jake, bring it back," she called out as he raced after the frisbee, his golden coat gleaming under the sun. Even amidst the looming shadows of her worries, moments like these were bright lanterns guiding her back to clarity. Once the girls tired of their game, they joined Sarah on a nearby bench, giggling and petting Jake, who basked in all the affection he could muster. "He's so fluffy," one girl exclaimed, scratching Jake's ear as he leaned in for more. "Can we keep him?" Sarah chuckled, her heart swelling with pride. He's my buddy, but if I could, I'd share him with the whole world. As their laughter faded, Sarah felt guarded by their innocent joy, but the whispers of doubt crept in again. What if my life had as much ease as this? Why can't I bring this happiness into my work? She mused quietly. Rising from the bench, she decided it was time to leave. Let's go home, Jake. We've got some work to do, she announced. And Jake, rejuvenated from the outing, danced around her feet as they headed toward the exit. Back home, the reality of her unwritten project loomed again. She took a deep breath and plopped onto the couch, laptop in front of her. Jake, sensing the shift in energy, laid his head on her lap, a grounding force against the tidal wave of insecurity that threatened to wash over her. Okay, buddy, let's see what we can do, she said, determined to translate her moments of clarity into something tangible. With each keystroke, she poured out her ideas, the fears that once clung to her slowly dissipating like morning fog. It was as if Jake's unconditional presence transformed the daunting task into a shared project where neither would falter. Hours passed and reality began to blend with inspiration. With each completed section, Sarah felt lighter. The bond between her and Jake enveloped her, knitting together her thoughts as they both lay comfortable in their shared space. Who knew a blanket could hold such weight? She chuckled softly, glancing down at Jake, who still remained steadfastly with her. The feeling of warmth from her blanket and the companionship of a dog who would never leave her side showed her that while challenges could be formidable, they also paired with profound love and support. I guess we'll both rise to these challenges, won't we, Jake? She whispered, the shadows of self-doubt exposed to the light. And in that moment, with reassurance wrapped around them, she finally felt she could move forward, ensured by the unwavering loyalty of her beloved dog. A day at the park, the sun rose high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the neighborhood. Sarah awoke with renewed energy, a sense of purpose pulsing through her. She stretched, feeling the contours of the blanket that Jake had insisted on claiming as his domain last night. Snuggling deeper into the fabric for just a moment longer, she inhaled, reveling in the comforting sun of home mixed with the earthy aroma of the sun-drenched park outside. All right, you fluffy alarm clock, she grinned, glancing down at Jake, who was already at her feet, ready for another adventure. His wagging tail was a testament to the excitement he felt, emotion that seemed to balance with endless joy. Today was the day they would return to their favorite park, a fresh canvas for both of them to paint over with laughter, exploration, and perhaps a dash of unpredictability. Sarah quickly prepared herself, shaking off the last remnants of lingering worries from her mind. Throwing on a light athletic top and a pair of comfortable shorts, she felt ready to conquer whatever the day had in store. As she reached for Jake's leash, he leapt around her, emanating an enthusiasm that was infectious. Let's roll, buddy, she exclaimed, attaching the leash as he bolted toward the door. Leading the way. As they stepped outside, the world was alive. The vibrant colors of blooming flowers reached out like open arms, inviting them to wander. As they walked, Sarah took in the sights: children playing tag, the sound of laughter echoing from a nearby playset, the gentle rustling of leaves in the warm breeze. It felt like a fresh start, a blank page waiting for their adventures to unfold. When they arrived at the park, the expansive green field met them with an enticing allure. Jake sniffed the air excitedly, taking in 1,000 scents that told stories of other dogs and delightful experiences. As he danced around, Sarah felt the tension in her muscles loosen, the playful spirit of the park wrapping around them both like a warm embrace. Time for some fun, she called out, tossing a stick across the grass. Jake shot off like a dart, his golden fur a blur against the emerald backdrop. A few children nearby stopped their game of soccer to watch him. Their laughter mingled with the sounds of the world, creating a melody that filled Sarah's heart with joy. She watched as Jake retrieved the stick, a triumphant look on his face as he brought it back, tail wagging furiously. You're quite the superstar today, Sarah laughed, giving him treats of praise as they played. Each throw brought a new wave of excitement as Jake leapt and bounded, embodying the essence of pure, unfiltered joy. Yet, as the afternoon wore on, Sarah noticed a shift in the atmosphere. The sun, once warm and encouraging, began to fade behind a blanket of clouds, and a breeze blew through, chilling her skin. Despite feeling the sudden change, she brushed it off, choosing to focus on the moments of laughter and play. But Jake seemed to sense something amiss. He paused mid-fetch, his ears perked as he looked toward a shadow lurking at the edge of the park. Sarah followed his gaze, noticing a large, unfamiliar dog standing near the playground, its stance tense. With eyes fixed on Jake, a shiver slid down her spine. Something about the situation felt precarious. "Jake, come here," she called out, but the golden retriever was too enthralled with the possibility of a new friend. He trotted toward the other dog, curiosity evident in every step. Sarah's heartbeat quickened, a nagging worry creeping into her mind. "Stay close." She shouted more urgently, moving to intercept him. The other Dogon, imposing German shepherded, started to pace, parting the grass with each powerful step, its gaze sharp and unwavering. Tension filled the air, thick and almost palpable. Jake was undeterred, barking playfully as if trying to coax the tense canine into a game. But the German shepherd remained stationary, its demeanor less than welcoming. A knot formed deep in Sarah's stomach. She couldn't shake the feeling that things could escalate if she didn't intervene quickly. "Jake, please come back," she called, panic rising in her voice. As Jake finally glanced back at her, she saw the glimmer of joy in his eyes fade slightly, replaced by confusion. For a brief moment, he hesitated, torn between his instinct to play and the bond they shared in that spinning moment, Sarah's. Heart raced as she sprinted forward, desperate to reach her best friend before curiosity could place him in harm's way. "Jake! This way!" she shouted, her voice commanding, her fear driving her feet faster across the grass. But just as she grabbed for the leash, the German shepherd lunged forward suddenly, barking fiercely. The guttural growl echoed ominously in the air, halting Sarah in her tracks. For a chilling heartbeat, everything seemed to freeze. She held her breath, her heart pounding in her ears. Jake, sensing the change, turned to face the threat. Instead of running away, he stood his ground, a testament to his brave spirit. "Jake, no!" Sarah screamed, now close enough to reach him. The tension was thick, electrifying the air between them, a chance encounter that could escalate into chaos in that split second. Everything crashed together, dogs growled, the children began to scream, and Sarah felt frozen, caught in a web of anxiety and fierce determination. Jake continued to bark, determined to keep a possible adversary at bay, while Sarah felt a surge of protective instinct. "Jake, come to me," she demanded again, extending her hand as if it could bridge the distance between them. Jake hesitated, his instincts clashing. This was his playground, his moment to show strength. Yet in the depths of her gaze, he recognized the urgency, the fear that seeped into the very fabric of her being. Finally, Jake broke from the standoff and dashed toward her, slamming his body into her leg, seeking her protection. Sarah quickly wrapped her arms around his neck, holding him tightly as the German shepherd glared, its posturing still threatening but momentarily hesitant. "Let's go, buddy. We'll find another part of the park," she said, her heart still racing as she slowly backed away, keeping her eyes locked on the other dog, ready to react should anything change. The moment they turned to leave, the German shepherd hesitated, its focus softening as it watched them retreat. Sarah's heart pounded, the adrenaline still coursing through her as they exited the park, seeking the safety of familiar ground. Once they were a good distance away, she allowed herself to breathe deeply, calming the frantic rhythm of her heartbeat. "What just happened?" she muttered, glancing down at Jake, who seemed bewildered yet proud of his decision to seek her out. "That was way too intense." Jake gazed up at her with an expression that felt reassuring, as if to say he would always return to her side when it mattered most. "You and me, Jake," Sarah panted, shaking her head in disbelief. "We cannot have too many days like that." As they finally found a quieter corner of the park, Sarah sank onto a bench, Jake flopping beside her, panting heavily. The cloudy skies above mirrored the tumult in her heart as she reflected on what had just occurred. Today was supposed to be fun, she sighed, running a hand along Jake's back, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing. He leaned closer, finding her warmth, his gentle nature soothing the tremors still rippling through her. The clock ticked on, but the waves of adrenaline and fear weren't easing. "I just wanted today to bring us joy," she spoke softly, tears prickling her eyes. "Why do things have to get complicated?" Jake nuzzled deeper into her side, and slowly the weight of her anxiety began to lift slightly. She thought of how bravely he had stood by her, facing the unknown threat together. In a world that felt chaotic, the bond they shared was a steady anchor in a turbulent sea. Just then, a light drizzle began, and Sarah chuckled bitterly to herself. How fitting. Her emotions echoed the weather. Slowly, she gathered herself, determined. To find the silver lining, let's head home, my brave boy. We can always return to the park when the skies are clear. With every step back, she felt a growing sense of resilience, recognition that they had faced a challenge together. Encounters might be frightening, but the unbreakable bond they shared made even the most daunting of days manageable. Together, they could weather any storm, literal or metaphorical. As they walked home, each step became lighter, their connection stronger. It felt as if they had emerged victorious, ready for whatever tomorrow held. The power of companionship blossomed. In the shared silence between them, a profound understanding that echoing laughter and unfortunate surprises were simply part of their journey together. And that was a truth Sarah knew she could carry with her, one adventure at a time. A moment of doubt, the following morning dawned bright and clear, sunbeams dancing through the curtains like playful children. Sarah stirred awake, but the residual tension from yesterday's park adventure clung to her like an unwelcome shadow. She pushed back the covers and sat up, feeling the familiar heaviness in her chest that had settled since the incident with the German Shepherd. Jake, however, was a bundle of energy. He bounded over, tail wagging furiously as he nudged her shoulder with his nose, ready for their morning ritual. "Good morning, you little ray of sunshine," Sarah said, forcing a smile. But deep down, her worries gnawed at her. What if the world outside was just as chaotic today as it had been yesterday? The coffee maker sputtered to life, sending the comforting aroma of brewed coffee drifting through the air. As she poured herself a cup, she stole a glance at Jake, who was now sprawled on the floor, lazily batting at a toy. His carefree spirit reminded her that she needed to shake off the anxiety. "Let's go for a run, buddy. We can't let fear stop us." Once they were out the door, the warmth of the sun washed over her, and she felt the tension begin to unravel. The neighborhood was peaceful, the chirping of birds filling the air as they jogged down the quiet street. Jake loped beside her, his stride rhythmically matching her pace. A reminder that they were in this together. As they turned at the park entrance, a familiar unease trickled back in. The memory of the German Shepherd's intense gaze lingered, a distant rumble of anxiety hidden beneath her newfound determination. She glanced around, half expecting to see another dog lurking in the shadows, but the park appeared tranquil today. See? Just us in the sunshine, she reassured herself aloud, trying to shake off the lingering doubts. Jake barked happily, chasing after a butterfly that flitted through the air. Her heart warmed at the joy he exuded, a stark contrast to the thoughts that had haunted her. They found a secluded path lined with blooming flowers, and as they ran alongside it, Sarah felt a moment of freedom sweep through her, a reminder of why she loved mornings like this. But just as the beauty of the day began to envelop her, a sudden rustling in the bushes caught her attention. Jake stopped dead in his tracks, ears perked, his playful demeanor shifting instantly to that of alertness. "What is it, buddy?" Sarah whispered, instinctively taking a step closer. The rustling grew louder, and she felt her heartbeat quicken, adrenaline thrumming through her veins. Suddenly, a small deer leapt from the bush, bounding gracefully across the path ahead of them. Sarah gasped, momentarily frozen at the sight of the graceful creature. Jake, however, saw it as an invitation. He bolted after the deer, barking excitedly. "No, Jake, come back," she shouted, panic surging through her. The deer had already vanished into the underbrush, but Jake's instincts kicked in, and he followed. The carefree dog disappeared into the thicket, leaving Sarah standing there, helpless and brimming with anxiety. "Jake," she called out, voice thin as the air around her seemed to thicken. Glancing down the path, she felt alarmed and exposed, unsure of where her loyal companion might be. Every second felt like an eternity, her heart thudding in her chest as she began to follow. Fear gripped her. What if he got lost? What if he encountered something dangerous? The fear of losing him hung over her like storm clouds. The park, once a sanctuary, felt like a labyrinth, a series of winding paths that could swallow him whole. "Jake," she yelled, her voice gaining strength as she stepped further into the thicket. The sounds of rustling leaves and snapping twigs echoed all around her, creating an eerie symphony that rattled her nerves. She pushed through the brush, calling his name, but there was no reply. Just then, she heard a low growl emanating from nearby. Her pulse quickened, and instinctively she ducked behind a tree, peering through the branches. Within the shadows, she spotted Jake, standing face-to-face with a larger dog that she couldn't identify. A hulking mastiff, its dark eyes glaring. Hidden in the foliage, Sarah's heart sank. The sight of her sweet dog confronting such a formidable animal shook her to the core. "Jake, come back," she whispered frantically, fear knotted tightly in her throat. He didn't seem frightened, but he was clearly unsettled, his tail drooping. Unsure how to proceed, the mastiff's growl deepened, a warning that sent chills rippling down Sarah's spine. What had started as a joyful morning had morphed into an episode of dread, her worst fears manifesting in the form of two dogs locked in an unintentional standoff. "Thanks, Sarah," she told herself, scanning the landscape for anything she could. Use? Should she intervene? Should she run in and try to pull Jake away? Every fiber of her being screamed to protect him, yet a sudden rush of sense cautioned her to approach cautiously. "Jake, come here," she called again, forcing her voice to steady. She hoped her command would break through whatever spell had gripped him. She edged closer, inching her way through the thicket, praying not to spook the mastiff further. In response to her voice, Jake shifted his gaze, his demeanor changing slightly. Perhaps he recognized her tone or urgent sign. He began to back away from the mastiff. That small movement ignited flickers of hope within her soul. "Good boy, come to me," she encouraged, her heart racing as she waved her hand, willing him to listen. Just as Jake turned toward her, the mastiff leapt forward, barking violently. The sudden sound ricocheted through the air, jolting Sarah into action. "Jake, run, now!" she screamed, the command roaring out of her as she burst from the shadows toward him. The mastiff lunged, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze, her entire world narrowing down to that singular, heart-stopping moment. Jake responded immediately, bolting back toward her. The mastiff, sensing the retreat, gave chase, its thunderous footsteps pounding the ground as it followed. Sure enough, Sarah reached out just in time, grabbing Jake's collar and pulling him close. The moment felt surreal, as though the world had gone slow. With every ounce of strength and determination, she yanked him out of the mastiff's reach. They both turned just in time for the other dog to veer off in another direction, losing interest in their flight. Panting heavily, Sarah fell to the ground with Jake by her side, both of them catching their breath. "That was too close," she gasped, her heart racing with the thrill of narrowly escaping danger. She looked at Jake, whose big brown eyes exuded confusion and concern. For a few moments, they remained there, her mind racing with what had just transpired. The gravity of her fear hit as she realized how quickly everything could have turned dangerous. "Why do these things keep happening?" she murmured, her voice trembling in the stillness. Jake licked her hand as if to soothe her tumultuous emotions, his gentle nature grounding her. Yet, doubts crept back in. The world seemed fraught with peril, too many dangers lurking around every corner. She had felt strong just moments ago, but now she was left reeling. "What if I can't keep you safe?" she whispered, dropping her head as the weight of her fears streamed through her. Jake had always been a source of light in her life, but now that light felt dimmed, overshadowed by the unpredictability of their adventures. As they sat there, she felt the familiar urge to give up, to retreat back into the safety of their home. The park that had once offered solace now felt like a battleground. Yet Jake's warm presence against her leg reminded her of their resilience. As she stood, a newfound determination began to flicker inside her again. She'd faced challenges, had emerged through storms both emotional and physical, and had prevailed. With her furry companion, "Come on, Jake," she said, forcing a smile through her tears. "We can't let one bad moment ruin everything." With a deep breath, she decided to head back home. The air felt different now, a bit heavier, but the connection she had with Jake was stronger than any fear that threatened her. They navigated through the park, still cautiously aware of their surroundings but confident in their bond. As they exited, Sarah felt the warmth of the afternoon sun wrapping around them like an embrace, encouraging her to stand tall. "We'll conquer today yet, right?" she proclaimed, looking down at Jake, who wagged his tail as if to agree. In that moment, she realized that the only thing she could control was how she faced whatever challenges lay ahead. Tomorrow might be unpredictable, but she would not let the shadows darken her path. With Jake by her side, they would face the unknown together fearlessly. With the unwavering spirit that had always defined their bond. As they reached home, Sarah felt a sense of calm wash over her, as if the upheaval had given birth to clarity. "Let's tackle today one step at a time," she whispered, committing herself to not just embracing life but living it alongside her brave companion. Together they could withstand anything. The unexpected storm the following day dawned under an unsettling blanket of clouds, a stark contrast to the vibrant sun that had accompanied them on previous outings. Sarah woke with a sense of foreboding, a heaviness in the air that mirrored the turmoil within her heart. She glanced out of the window, almost expecting the storm to wash away the lingering doubts that had clung to her since their last adventure. Ready for some more fun in the park? She asked Jake, who was eagerly wagging his tail in response, blissfully unaware of the clouds brewing both outside and inside. With his usual enthusiasm, he bounced around the room as she prepared for their morning routine, exuding a warmth that calmed her frayed nerves. As they stepped out, the wind whipped through her hair, hinting at a storm that seemed imminent. "We'll just go for a short walk today," she decided, hoping the soothing rhythm would quiet her mind. With each step, the atmosphere grew heavier, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her chest. The park was quieter than usual. The ominous skies had driven most visitors indoors. Only a few dog owners remained, glancing nervously at the brewing clouds, their hesitant laughter mixing with the rustle of the trees. Jake, however, was a beacon of energy, blissfully charging forward, completely unattached to the concerns swirling around them. "Let's find a place to sit, shall we?" Sarah suggested, her instincts whispering that it was better safe than sorry. They approached a small picnic area, nestled beneath a large oak tree. As they settled down on the cool grass, she watched as raindrops began to fall, slow at first, then increasing in intensity. "Looks like we're in for a shower, buddy," she said, reaching for her backpack to pull out a small blanket. Just as she spread it over them, a sudden clap of thunder rolled across the sky, causing Jake to jump up, barking in surprise. "It's okay," she cooed, pulling him back against her, but Jake remained on high alert, sniffing the air. The intensity of the storm seemed to awaken something primal in him, his instincts kicking in as he paced anxiously around their space. Then came another rumble, this one louder and more menacing. The wind picked up, howling through the trees, as the droplets turned into a torrential downpour. Sarah's heart raced as she wrapped Jake tighter in the blanket, feeling the tension growing with each ensuing clap of thunder. "I should have checked the weather," she muttered, panic rising as she scanned the park for the nearest exit. Other dog owners began to gather their belongings, making a hurried retreat. "Maybe we should head back, Jake," she decided, struggling to keep her composure while the storm rattled around them. But as she stood, a flash of lightning lit up the sky, followed by a crack that echoed like cannon fire. Jake darted forward, pulling on the leash with a frantic energy that caught her off guard. "Jake, wait!" she shouted. Desperate to keep up with his sudden burst of panic, he was already heading toward the deeper woods beyond the picnic area, as if drawn to something hidden among the trees. "No, come back!" she cried, tugging the leash, but Jake was caught up in a whirlwind that seemed to possess him. The rain poured down in sheets, leaving her breathless as she sprinted after him, slipping on the muddy ground. The world around her blurred in the storm. All she saw were flashes of trees and the continuous arcs of lightning lighting up the sky. "Jake, stop!" she pleaded, but he was lost in the frenzy. Sarah rushed forward, fear electrifying her movements. She had to get him back, had to keep him safe. Just as she almost caught up to him, the ground gave way beneath her feet, and she tumbled down a small slope, landing awkwardly in the thick brush below. Ooh! The wind was knocked out of her. Dazed, she struggled to her knees, looking around in confusion. "Jake," she screamed, panic gripping her as she frantically searched for him. The storm howled, drowning out any sounds he might make, amplifying her fear. Just then, another flash of lightning illuminated a figure in the distance. Jake, he was pacing around a fallen tree, his body tense, sniffing at something on the ground. "No, no, no," she urged, trying to push herself up, but the mud slicked her feet, making it difficult to regain her footing. "Jake, come here." At the sound of her voice, he froze, perked as he turned toward her. For a moment, she saw recognition in his eyes, a flicker of understanding amid his fear. But before he could move, another clap of thunder resounded. More intense than before, and Jake bolted deeper into the woods. Jake! She felt a fresh wave of desperation crash over her as she scrambled even harder up the slope, clutching the leash in her hand. Why was this happening? Why couldn't she keep him safe? Suddenly, all of her hidden fears lurked like shadows around. Her, the storm wasn't just an inconvenience. It was a test of their bond and the strength they shared. She stumbled, catching herself against a massive oak. "I can't lose you," she shouted into the ether, fear coursing through her veins like ice. Pushing through the muddy underbrush, she fought against the storm, finally managing to regain her footing. The rain pounded against her, blurring her vision, intensifying the chaos. "I'm coming for you, Jake," she vowed, each word a rallying cry against the madness enveloping them. As she plunged forward into the growing darkness of the woods, her heart felt like it was trying to escape her chest. "Stay close," she shouted, but her voice felt lost. Amid the cacophony, she had to find him. The idea that he could be scared or trapped somewhere ignited a fierce determination within her. Then, in a flash of lightning, she spotted him again. Jake stood still at the edge of a small clearing, his body low and tense. He was fixated on something, a dark shape writhing on the ground. "Jake, come!" she breathed, fear traveling through her. She tried to move toward him, but as she did, a low growl erupted from the shadows. It was an animalist, perhaps confused like them. Fear wrapped around her throat, stifling her breath. Thunder echoed above them, resonating with the growl, deepening the chaos. "Jake, don't!" she yelled as he took a step forward, curious, the leash slipping from her fingers. "Jake!" No longer tethered, he approached the creature, and a primal instinct kicked in. Sarah felt panic surge in waves, desperation clawing at her. "Come back!" she screamed, pushing her way through the mud and underbrush, adrenaline fueling her. Movements. As she neared, the shadowy figure began to take shape, a severe-looking wild animal, fur matted and eyes reflecting a stormy sky. The growl deepened, and Jake, undeterred, continued to move closer. Sarah's heart raced. She had to act, had to protect. Then both. "Jake, stay back. This isn't a game," she shouted, her voice trembling. Before she could reach him, the wild creature lunged, teeth bared, a snarl ripping from its throat. In that terrifying moment, everything froze. Time slowed, and she could feel every heartbeat, every breath echoing the urgency of the moment. Nitrogen monoxide. Sarah screamed, a visceral cry rising from within her. She stretched out her hands, a desperate plea to the universe for protection. Jake, sensing her fear, turned and ran back towards her just as the creature lunged forward. He barely dodged the snap of its jaws, and Sarah's heart soared with relief as she grabbed the back of his collar, yanking him away from danger. They tumbled back into the mud together as the wild animal skidded to a halt, startled by the noise and movement. "Let's go." "Now," she urged, pulling Jake back as they scrambled to their feet. Rushing back the way they came, they burst through the thicket, dodging branches and low brush, not daring to look back. She could hear the growls and snarls behind them, the wind carrying the sounds like an impending storm. Finally, they broke through the trees and stumbled into the clearing where they'd started, breathless and soaked to the bone. The storm continued to rage above, but for the moment they were safe. "Jake, we did it!" she gasped, collapsing against a tree trunk, both of them panting heavily. Though the rain seemed relentless, their hearts were racing not from fear, but from the electricity of survival. Jake nuzzled her, instinctively offering comfort as she clutched him tightly. "I thought I'd lost you," she breathed, overwhelmed by the gravity of what had just transpired. The storm raged on, wind whipping through the trees, but they had made it through. In that moment, Sarah realized that fear could be a powerful force, but so could bravery, especially when ignited by love. With Jake by her side, she knew they could face anything, even the storms that threatened to shatter their peace. As they prepared to make their way back home, she felt more liberated than ever before. "Let's get out of this rain," she whispered, glancing down at him with a determination that rekindled her spirit. Together, they would weather any storm that life threw their way. The adventures, she knew, were far from over. And as they stepped forward, they did so hand in paw, stepping into the unknown with a bond stronger than any fear.